It's Crime Time Podcast on the scene, and here we are now, about a week, maybe a little more, a little less, from the Karen Read verdict. It is becoming clear that there was never a chance of her being convicted at all.
New developments out of Massachusetts, where the jury foreman in the Karen Read murder retrial is now speaking out about the case. During an interview on the Today Show earlier this morning, the jury foreman, whose name he wishes to keep private, had this to say about whether or not he believed Read was factually innocent, or if the Commonwealth just didn't prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Karen Read is innocent, and she didn't do this crime. No one could prove that she did this crime, so I looked at her from day one as an innocent woman that needed to be proven guilty, and I don't think any of that was shown in this process.
Boy, if you're a defense attorney, that's the attitude you want from your jury foreperson, Matthew Mangino. It's interesting, these jurors who have now surfaced have come out of the woodwork days later after the verdict. This was not close, was it?
It doesn't sound like it, certainly from this juror. I mean, everybody has a presumption of innocence, and that's the way you should look at a case going into it. You're presumed innocent until, in this situation, the Commonwealth proves you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. He's doing what every juror should do, but he's making it sound like, hey, I thought she was innocent, and I just kind of listened to what the prosecution has to say, and nobody proved otherwise, so we found her not guilty. And a lot of people have trouble with the idea that, hey, just because you're not guilty doesn't mean you're innocent. But you have a juror who thinks so here.
Yeah, interesting. It's just, you never know what's going on behind closed doors in that deliberation room. But the jurors that have come out sure do make it look like they were on the same page. And really just debating on whether she was drunk or not, which is surprising that was even a debate.
That's pretty interesting hearing the foreman there asking for his identity to be kept secret or confidential, but he's right there on camera, so I'm sure people will figure out who he is. Isn't the internet crazy? Everyone figures everything about everyone, but some things are off, not so true. Some are on point, and some things still remain hidden. It's kind of crazy, you know what I mean? But that's a bit besides the point. But the real point here is, it's interesting to me that you heard him say, hey, with all the information that was out there and just everything, I never looked at this woman as guilty. I looked at her as someone innocent that the prosecution had to prove was guilty to me. And at the end of the day, that's the way the legal system is supposed to work. Presumed innocent until proven guilty, right? Without a doubt, right? Or however the exact lingo and language goes, man. That's how it's supposed to be. And that's what this gentleman thought, the foreman. From off top, she was innocent. There was no way she was guilty to him. They got to prove it, and they didn't do it, you know? And that's the thing with this case. When you really go back to the beginning, the first verdict, it's so crazy. Like I keep pointing out and saying in any commentary I put out on here, or conversations I have in real life with people, it's become more clear to me that it was just asinine and idiotic for them to retry her after what happened the first time around. There was a point in time when I wasn't so sure about this case, but even then, it wasn't really overwhelmingly to either side. You know what I mean? I was always kind of more in the middle about all this, but at the end of the day, there's just more at play, you know? And I don't know if you guys have heard the latest talk out there about some whole swinger, freaky, I don't know, Diddy type shit going on or something like that. Have you guys heard that Karen Read's supposed to come out and address more things? And apparently there was like some swinger freak shit going on. And listen, that wouldn't shock me, because it's really weird the way certain things, like obviously I know law enforcement is involved in this case, and we know the way that goes with 5-0, the police. They just look out for each other, and it's so hard, as I've pointed out in previous commentary as well. Like, convicting the police of anything is so hard. It's fucking damn near impossible, it feels like at times. Pardon my French, man, but it's, to really get it across how hard it is. It's like they get off with so much stuff all the time, slaps on the wrist, or even at times when there's some real bad shit out there, they're forced into retirement. And, speaking on a side conversation, just more about police corruption and them breaking the law and stuff, not just reference in this case. It's like if more cops had to pay, that they didn't have that cushion that kind of absolves them of really facing consequences for the things that they do, right? There's a lot of cops that would cut the bullshit out. You know what I mean? We know at the end of the day, when it comes to the police, all right, there is people that are good cops that just want to do their job. I'm not saying that like shitting on the police overall. I'm not anti-cop or pro-cop, right? There is good cops, there's bad cops, there's everything in between, just like any other portion of the population, right? But there's a lot of people that sign up to be cops to abuse their power, to just hold that power, like some sick mental shit, man. And at the end of the day, those kind of individuals that get off, abusing their power, they would fear to do that if more cops paid. That's a big thing within the true crime world, the law and order world, crime and punishment, whatever, however you want to reference it. I really advocate for that all the time, that bad cops need to pay, you know what I mean? Just like citizens, and truly it should be more than citizens. I mean, legally speaking, in many instances, if they are ever tried for their crimes, there's a lot of federal shit that they get charged with that is worse if they, commit crimes in uniform or with their service weapons and stuff like that, civil rights violations and all that. But it just doesn't go that way so often, and that's just wrong. Sorry to get a bit off track there, but comment if you guys feel me on that. I'm just so sick of that. It's overall for society. The public needs that, and police, if they want to be trusted more by the public, that's how it should be. But there's just this blue wall or whatever they call it, man. It's crazy. You know what I mean? When you think of the streets and no snitching and all that stuff, that now with the internet and a lot of commentary channels and discussions happening about things of that nature, street codes and stuff, it's looked at as so immature and so stupid. A lot of people are starting to wake up and be like, man, that shit's dumb. But the police do it. It's often more hardcore than the streets. You know what I mean? Like, don't think that cops don't look down on rats and all that, and then very often they'll abuse their power and force people to talk and then clown on them for ratting or whatever. It's really something. But back to speaking about this whole case, like the whole police aspect made things very tricky about all this. But even beyond that, it just felt weird that there wasn't more attention pointed that way. Like, it really wouldn't shock me if there was some freaky shit or something that's going to cause some embarrassment or whatever, just beyond the shame of the police trying to protect their own and the shame of them looking dirty or looking foul in any way. There's something else there, and it really wouldn't shock me at all one bit. Comment everyone out there and let me know if you agree, your thoughts about all this, about what the jurors said there. Everything, leave it in the comments, hit the likes and everything, subscribe to the channel if you're new over here. We just talk it up on different true crime and crime topics. Apologies, y'all. I'm stuttering and muttering a bit, but I'm a bit turned up behind this. You know what I'm saying? Like, the more you look at this case, it really is stupid. Why would they have that first verdict and come back the same exact way? You know what I mean? And then you're hearing the jurors speak out and seeing different things come out. And someone I seen too talking about Freedom of Information Act and stuff like that. Massachusetts is a commonwealth, and from my understanding, those states, it's a whole different ball game in many ways with the law books and all that, but especially with these Freedom of Information Acts, it's hard to get a lot of information. So I guarantee, in my opinion, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's just never going to fully come out. So I'm really tuned in to what Karen Read says next, and this Turtle Boy guy. There's something else about all this, another clip I wanted to share with you guys.
Walking out to this main legal team quite yet. And I do want to.
So you hear that clip that was like right after, I used a clip of Turtle Boy speaking in another video after the verdict and all that, right? But, how instrumental into her being vindicated do you think that Turtle Boy was? You know what I mean? You hear what the juror says, so keep that in mind. But some people feel like Turtle Boy was like the secret weapon. He's the guy that evened the scales of justice or whatever. And I got to look more into his case with the stuff he was indicted on, what's going on with all that. Comment if you've been following that or your thoughts on all that as well. But check some of this research here. There was some stuff here that I wanted to share with you guys out of the Twitter sphere with people discussing this, where some research, which you can fact check, it is actual factual, right? Right here, I've said it and I'll say it again. Alan Jackson, Davis Yannetti, and others didn't get a not guilty verdict for Karen Read. Turtle Boy did. Without Turtle Boy and his complete lunacy, Karen Read would be in prison. So we just kind of discussed that. But where was it? I respect everyone's opinion, but I disagree with those saying Brennan should have done this or that differently. In my opinion, he put on a case that a 7-year-old could understand and find Karen Read guilty. There was something more at play. Brennan never stood a chance to get justice for John. So what do you think about those tweets there? And that's kind of like what I was saying in the beginning, man. Like they already did this once around. It's not like they came around the second time with some big smoking gun or any real new serious detrimental evidence or anything like that. And it's just like there was more at play. Like as this person said in their tweet, there's something else going on here. And I wonder if we'll ever really find it all out. What do you guys think? Is there a chance the feds step up to bat, being that a law enforcement lost their life? Like, will the feds, and why didn't they step in at this point? It's all a bit misconstrued and confusing. There really is a lot of mystique to this case, man. It's pretty bugged out. But check this out. Someone responded to one of those tweets and said, I agree. Brennan didn't have a chance when you look at the data. And like I said, you can check this out. It sounds astonishing. But based on the Norfolk juror survey, there was only 1 in 869,000th chance that a jury of 12 would believe that Karen Read was liable. I know it cuts off there, but liable for John O'Keefe's death. So there y'all have it, man. Just a bit of an update in this case that just, I was going to say keeps on giving, but I don't necessarily like speaking in that kind of lingo. You know what I mean? I know the true crime stuff it's very popular and it's intriguing and stuff like that, and at times entertaining, but I mean, this is some twisted shit, you know what I mean? But it needs to be discussed at the same time. And it's a case that is going to be, like, there's a lot of cases. For instance, I did a video a while back about the evil scumbag demon, Chris Watts, right? And there's a lot with that case that, as far as the mistress and her father and his connections to law enforcement and such, that I'm surprised people haven't really dived into more. Comment if you think that's something we should dive into from that aspect. But just in general with Chris Watts, it's like this evil piece of shit, it's atrocious and disgusting what this demon did. And people still beat that case to death talking about it all the time. And I get it. There's different aspects to look at it from, but pretty much everything has been covered there, in my opinion, uncovered, except for the mistress. But in this case, it's like it's a different ball game. There's just more at play and always has been. And for some reason, it was half-assed dealt with. You know what I mean? There's a big part of the case that law enforcement fell back on, and it makes no sense. You know what I mean? So it does make sense that this case continues to be dug into more and more. So thank you for tuning in. Let's talk about it all in the comment section. Subscribe to Crime Time Podcast for more. And I'm up out of here, guys. Peace. God bless.